Let's have a look at a brief history of the Stanley Cup in the NHL. You will notice original six teams dominate the list. You will notice that Montreal are, well, the best team when it comes to Stanley Cup wins. And the Maple Leafs only have the 13. There's a big gap. There's an 11 trophies difference. Yeah, Montreal are clearly ahead. I don't think they're going to be overtaken anytime soon. It's much harder now with the salary cap to form a dynasty and therefore win back-to-back Stanley Cups. Montreal have a little asterisk because one cup was won before the NHL became the dominant. Well, the NHL was a league, so Montreal have been going a lot longer than the NHL has, and they won a cup before the NHL. So they have 24, the Maple Leafs have 13, the Red Wings have 11, the Bruins and Blackhawks have 6 each. That is 5 out of the 6 original 6 teams in the top 5. The Oilers and Penguins have 5 each, the Islanders and Rangers have 4 each. That is the Rangers, the weakest of the original 6 teams. They sit way down the list. They are 20 cups behind the Montreal Canadiens. The New Jersey Devils have 3, the Colorado Avalanche have 2, the Kings from LA have 2, the Flyers have 2, and then we got the Anaheim Ducks have 1, the Calgary Flames have 1, the Hurricanes from Carolina have 1, the Dallas Stars have 1, the Tampa Bay Lightning have 1, and the Washington Capitals this season just gone, have 1. Also, there are some teams that no longer exist that have won the Stanley Cup since its inception, especially in the professional era, so we're looking at 1915 onwards. The Ottawa Senators' original franchise, not the current franchise, have won it 4 times. The Vancouver Millionaires have won it once. The Montreal Maroons, the other team from Montreal, have won it twice. With Seattle coming back in the league, the former Seattle Metropolitans from the 1920s won it once, and so did the Victoria Cougars from Victoria Island. They've won it once as well. All those teams went out of business because of the Great Depression. The Ottawa Senators is possibly the biggest travesty in sport. They ran out of money. They were a brilliant team in the 1920s. You just have to look at the history books. Had that team survived the Great Depression, we would have had the original 7, not the original 6. There we go. It was first played for, the old Stanley Cup, in 1892. It is the oldest trophy in North America in pro sports. There are only 2 years where the cup was not awarded. That was in 1919 because of the Spanish flu epidemic at the end of World War I, and in 2005 because of the lockout lost season. So you will see on the inscriptions that it was abandoned in 1919. It was played for, but they never actually completed the Stanley Cup playoffs that year. And in 2005, it has a special inscription saying not played for this year. So there we go. Original 6 teams, as I say, dominate the top half of the board. Oh yes, they dominate the top of the board. It's interesting, very few teams that have been relocated have won the cup. So you've got the Devils have won it 3 times, the Avalanche relocated, they've won it twice, Calgary have won it once, Carolina have won it once, and Dallas have won it once. So only 5 teams that have been relocated have ever gone on to lift the Stanley Cup. There are 4 teams currently playing in the NHL that have now got to a Stanley Cup final, including the Minnesota Wild, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Winnipeg Jets, and what is the other team? There's another team not made the Stanley Cup final. It's going to annoy me. Arizona Coyotes. There you go. Got it. Saved it. So there's 4 teams currently playing that have never made the Stanley Cup. 2 are expansion teams and 2 are relocations. So there you go. If you are relocated, you're less likely to win the cup than if you stay in the same location permanently. Some teams have gone very, very long spells without winning the cup. Other teams, it took them a long time to win their first cup. Obviously now in the salary cap era, it is harder to win. Obviously Montreal, Toronto did it all before the 67 expansion. Detroit and Pittsburgh are the last teams to win back-to-back. They're the last 2 teams to win back-to-back Stanley Cups, about a decade apart roughly, but it was done. It's doable. It's very difficult, and that's in the salary cap era. Chicago won 3 in, I think, a couple of years, 2015, 2013, and 2010. Again, very hard to win that many close together. Pittsburgh have won 3 in the last decade, 2 in the 90s. Very, very difficult. I think the Penguins are the only ones on this list since 1990 to win the cup back-to-back twice. So it is difficult. It's not easy. I think Montreal will top the list for quite some time to come. It will be a minimum. Toronto would have to win 11 times consecutively to equal Montreal's record. That is not going to happen. So I think Montreal will top the list for a very, very long time. They may never be surpassed. It'll be interesting. The Toronto have a very good chance this year of winning the cup. Can't discount the Penguins. The Blackhawks are not in it. There's very few, I would say, favourites on this list. I think the Capitals could go back to back. Tampa Bay could win. Calgary have a good chance this year. There's about 4 teams on this list that are contenders this year at the moment. Don't count out Colorado Bay, so they'll have a shout. The Islanders could be an outside shout. But there's a lot of teams on this list that aren't even close to winning the Stanley Cup this year. But there we go. So thank you very much for watching. This is a brief history of the Stanley Cup. I'll go more in depth, but to be fair, it's been played for since 1892. There's only 2 years it hasn't actually been claimed. So that's a pretty intense record that they have there. I think that's the most consistency a trophy's had. If we look at, in England, the FA Cup, that's been put on hold in World War One and World War Two. So it hasn't been played for consistently since inception, although it has been played for longer. But this is the oldest trophy in North America. I believe the FA Cup is the oldest trophy in Europe to be played for continuously. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your comments below, and I'll have some more videos for you soon.